وَلَيَنْزِعَنَّ اللَّهُ مِنْ صُدُورِ عَدُوِّكُمْ الْمَهَابَةَ مِنْكُمْ وَلَيَقْذِفَنَّ اللَّهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمُ الْوَهْنَ فَقَالَ قَائِلٌ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ وَمَا الْوَهْنُ قَالَ حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَاهِيَةُ الْمَوْتِ. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما ورد عنه المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من الضعيف وفي كل خير احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز وإن أصابك شيء فلا تقل لو أني فعلت كان كذا وكذا ولكن قل قدر الله وما شاء فعله فإن لو تفتح عمل الشيطان أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My dear respected elders and brothers, first of all, we'd like to request the brothers who are sitting more towards the back to kindly come closer. I would like for this to serve as a reminder for all of us. It is an unfortunate habit with us Muslims and Musallis generally. For some reason, when we come into the masjid, we prefer sitting at the back. As the virtue of the masjid is to be found in the front. Because Nabi Sallam has mentioned that the best of the sufu for the men, it is the front saf. And the best of the sufu for the ladies is the last saf. So there is great encouragement for us to be in the front of the masjid. And it is unfortunate that we all sort of, we drone together in the back of the masjid. And then when the time of salah comes, if we want to make the iqamah for the salah, we make an announcement that the salah is going to start, but then still people take their time in coming to the front, and then we have to wait for the sufuf to become filled in order for us to start with the salah. The adab and etiquette of the masjid is that we should fill the masjid from the front. So my humble request is, please, when we do come to the masjid, whether it is for Jumu'ah or whether it is for our daily awqat of salah, do not drone at the back of the masjid. Rather, come to the front, so it makes easier for us to get a place of virtue, and it becomes easier to commence with the salah as quickly as possible, inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala grant us all tawfiq. Alhamdulillah, I do not know to what extent the brothers and people generally might be aware of the prevailing circumstances of what's happening in Palestine. I'm sure most people are aware. And it is also very confusing sometimes, the information that comes from Palestine. But the one reality that I can share with you regarding Palestine is that the genocide is continuing unabated. These people have not slowed down in the least. In fact, they use every excuse. You see, what happened was, initially the excuse was what happened on the 7th of October. What happened on the 7th of October, and they used this as an excuse to start slaughtering our Muslim brethren in Palestine and Gaza. And then when that excuse was running thin, they had to find another excuse for them to continuing. So what they did, they started bombing into the neighboring countries onto the border of the neighboring country of Lebanon, which was deliberately done in order to provoke a response from Lebanon and the other surrounding countries. So when Lebanon responded, for every one missile Lebanon shot into the Israeli territory, the Israelis shot another 1,000 missiles into Gaza and into Palestine. So it was just merely provoking the neighboring countries in order to get a new excuse to unabatedly carry on the genocide that was carrying on and taking place in Palestine and Gaza. But the question is, my dear respected elders and brothers, to what extent have you and I taken effect from this genocide when it started? And to what extent are you and I still affected by it? Or is it such that the novelty of this genocide that is taking place right in front of our very own eyes, that we can be a direct eyewitness to by way of seeing the events as they happen. To what extent have we become bored and desensitized to what is happening? We've already seen so many thousand children slaughtered that the few that's happening now, it's not really that interesting anymore. It's not really shocking anymore. We've already seen cities upon cities being demolished. So to see more hospitals bombed, to see more schools bombed, to see more housing structures bombed with the people inside of it, it's not really, surprising us anymore. We don't really, we just swipe past it because, we're just tired. We're getting tired of this genocide now already. We don't really have an interest in it anymore because it's the same story. People being bombed and then die. Children bombed and they die. Children slaughtered, women slaughtered, men slaughtered. It's the same story. It's just another group of new Muslims being slaughtered every day. But it's the same story. Has that become our attitude towards what is happening? Is that what is demanded from us? Is that the matloob? Is that why we no longer support the initiatives, for a counter towards what is taking place? We no longer support the marches. We no longer support the calls for programs to be attended. We no longer support the dhikr programs, the Quran tilawat programs, the 𝗨𝗵𝗺 programs that is taking place in support and solidarity with the people of Palestine. Because it's become watered down. We no longer support the boycott of the Israeli products because ons nou al lank genoeg so 'n kook gewees. Jy kan nie so lank so 'n kook aangaan nie. Ons nou al lank genoeg weggebly van almal ons ander luxuries af en almal ons niceties en ons koffies en ons donuts en almal ons lekker goed. Jy kan nie so lank aangaan nie because die ding is nou al afgewater al. Is that our condition? Because if that is the condition, my dear respected elders and brothers, how unfortunate. How unfortunate. Because that tells us two things, my dear brothers. The first is that you and I do not have in our hearts a genuine love for this deen and its people. Because whether a Muslim is suffering anywhere else in the world, it is our suffering because we are one body. And the second thing it tells us, my dear respected elders and brothers, that you and I do not know the reality of our own condition here where we are in Cape Town. Because you and I do not know that Cape Town is the Zionist state of Africa. You and I don't know that how those Palestinians are living the reality under the persecution they are facing from the Zionists. The same steps that was taken by the Zionist government in Israel to lead to the slaughtering of the Muslims in Gaza and Palestine are exactly the same steps that are being put into place in Cape Town. And unless you and I don't wake up, our future generations will be slaughtered in the same way. Our future generations are going to be slaughtered here in Cape Town in exactly the same way. Unless you and I start waking up and get out of our slumber. We had one of our senior ulama here last weekend in a program, and he lamented. He was crying over the condition of the Muslim ummah, that we are unaffected by the reality of what's happening, not appreciating that the same could be happening here to us in the blink of an eye. You and I are no longer paying attention. You and I are no longer taking note of what's happening. That's why we're not seeing what is happening in our own city under our very own noses. Because we're not paying attention. We didn't pay attention to what's happening there. That's why we can't see what's happening here. To see that we are actually following the same path. In particular, Cape Town. Because this is the African home. This city, this province that you and I were born in, it's no longer ours. We are just the labor force in this city and province. But we are not really the owners here anymore. We have only become the labor market, the labor force, and you and I are the debt slaves, the economic slaves. We are being enslaved with debt of various kinds. One of the primary debts we are being enslaved with is municipal accounts. You and I are being enslaved with escalating water accounts, escalating rates accounts, escalating electricity tariffs. We are being enslaved with this so that eventually our masters will be able to do with us exactly like how they please. Exactly the same was done in Palestine and Gaza via the control of resources. The control of water supplies, the control of energy supplies via electricity, via petrol, the control of resources via food. When we are told all of a sudden there's a petrol shortage, when we are told all of a sudden there's a food shortage. Why is there shortages in South Africa for the people? That we discard. But for each and every trivial reason, you and I are loggerheads. And then we cut ourselves off from each other. Whilst Nabi Sallam says that it is not permissible for two Muslims to stay away from each other for more than 3 days. We ought to be blamed. Because he is not even understood and come to realize that he is to be blamed. Because one is that there are two disputing parties. The second, and the other is the one who is aware of the dispute. In the first effort, the two who are parties to the dispute, they must seek to resolve the dispute. And the one who is aware of the dispute, he is supposed to help them resolve the dispute. That is why generally for a Muslim, it is blameworthy to speak lies. You are not allowed to speak lies. But if you want to bring reconciliation between two Muslims who are at loggerheads with each other, it is permissible for you to lie. It becomes permissible for you to tell a lie in order to bring the two of them together. You know, die boeta, nee, die ou, ek wil niks met hom te doen nie, man. Hy die gedoen en hy die gedoen en hy so. As if only other people have shortcomings and we only have good. We are all a mixture of good and bad. We are all a mixture of shortcomings and good qualities. But sometimes our focus becomes so much on our own good qualities and the shortcomings of others that we fail to see our own shortcomings and we fail also to see their good. So your friend comes to you and he says to you, nee man, die ou praat dan so goed van jou. Hy sê, jy so kwaai en jy so. Gaan jy weer na die ander ene toe. Die ou, nee, die ou is niks. Hy sê, ja, ek weet nie of hy nog moslim is nie. Hy sê, ek monafik. Hoe, weet jy praat so van die man, weet jy hoe goed praat die man van jou? Die man sê, jy so. Why? In order to bring reconciliation. And this is a duty upon all of us, my dear brothers. Not only on some. It's not, ons moet reconcile, maar hy moet na my toe kom nie. No, that is not reconciliation. Reconciliation is, I'm prepared to go to him. You see, there's sometimes, we generally understand a fard to be more rewarding than a sunnah, isn't it? The fard salah is more rewarding than the sunnah, but not when it comes to approaching your brother for greeting. It is sunnah to greet first. It is wajib to reply. But the one who goes forward first, 𝗷𝗵𝗺 𝗨𝘁𝗵𝗺. Nabi Sallallahu says that is the person who becomes freed from pride. And that is the person who will get the greater reward. So we need to make moves in order to bring reconciliation, because this is one of the tools used to bring this weakness within us. The second tool is that we are cut off from our deen. We are cut off from our deen. And the things that brings bravery in us, being committed to our salah 5 times a day, getting up for tahajjud salah, fasting, sunnah fasting. These are all things that require courage. It requires determination. And this is how bravery will be developed in us. When it comes to the slogans, we are there in the forefront. 𝗍𝙁𝗾𝗏. Dan, kyk jy, waar is die ander mense? We are brave in the speech. Are we brave in the heart? Does bravery become reflected in our conduct? And the bravery of conduct means to act for the well-being of the ummah. We put the ummah and the deen above ourselves. And we are prepared to make sacrifice for it. And that's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that you will become like the foam on the seas. Like foam. In other words, of little value. We have little value in the eyes of our rulers and masters, except for the financial benefits they can gain from us. Which is why our children, sometimes people become very, proud if one person has become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. But you take by comparison. Take by comparison. From that side, there's one person who fails. From that side, there's one person who fails. From our side, there's one person who succeeds. But we are shown the one who succeeds, so that we should not take cognizance and become aware of those who are failing and ask, why are they failing? So that we can come to understand that there's something wrong with the system. The system has been jigged. And we are suffering under it, my dear respected elders and brothers. And our future generations will suffer more. You and I need to come to appreciate that we are living in the Zionist state of Western Cape. And unless you and I are not going to start doing something to make a change in our lives. Our Sheikh was speaking here, he was crying, he says, he's been the Imam of his Masjid for 37 years. For 37 years, and for 37 years, he's been speaking about the importance of Salah. For 37 years, he's been begging and pleading with the people to come to the Masjid. But still, after 37 years, the number of Musallis in Masjid has not grown. Why? Not because of the lack of encouragement, but for the lack of courage on those who are not performing Salah. The lack of courage of those who are not coming to the Masjid for Salah. We need to have the courage to make a change. We need to have a commitment to be in the Masjid. We need to have a commitment to, as a bare minimum, observe our 5 times daily Salah. This is the extent of our weakness. It is estimated that less than 10% of the Muslims are making 5 times a day Salah. What's happening in Palestine is not the fault of the Palestinians. It is our collective fault. You know, when a person has got a boil somewhere on his body, and the boil is paining, and it's pus coming out and blood coming out, is it the boil? Or is the problem in the whole body? The boil is only a sign something is wrong in the body. That's why what's happening in Palestine is only a sign that something is wrong in the ummah. And what is wrong in the ummah? The neglect of the commandments of Allah. The neglect of deen, the lack of the striving for the upliftment of deen, the lack for the striving of the upliftment of the Muslim ummah. We've made everything priorities besides the deen. And that is why when Nabi Sallam asked, was told that you will be plenty, but there will be a wahan in you, a weakness. One of the Sahaba asked, what is this wahan? Well, mal wahan. Mal wahan, ulama explained, doesn't mean, because wahan they know it means weakness. The Arabic word means weakness. But it means, ma sababul wahan. What will be the reasons for this weakness? And ulama say that, Nabi Sallam says, hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. Hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. What is meant by this? Al-hirsu alayha. Eagerness and greed for the dunya. Eagerness and greed for the dunya. In another hadith it is mentioned that when will the downfall of this ummah come? إِذَا تَبَايَعْتُمْ بِالْعِينَ وَأَخَذْتُمْ أَثْنَابَ الْبَقَرِ وَرَضِيتُمْ بِالزَّرْعِ. When you enter into, what they call it now? HP agreements. Where you buy things on credit. Our houses on credit, our cars on credit, our furniture on credit, our clothes on credit, our food on credit, our businesses run on credit. Because we are not prepared to be content with little. We want more. And our greediness for more, they've put the cheese of credit. Now, when do you give the mouse cheese? Because you like him. You want to catch him. We were given the cheese of credit so that our masters can catch us in the trap. And we are caught in the trap of debt. And we become happy with our homes, and we become happy with our properties, and we become happy with our businesses and industries. وَتَرَكْتُمُ الْجِهَادِ. And because of this love and attachment for it, because of this trap that we are in, we are not prepared to strive in the path of Allah. And when we get into that condition, 𝗪𝗪 عَلَيْكُمُ ظُلًّا, Allah will bring disgrace upon us as a ummah. And the end of this hadith, 𝗨𝗫𝗀 حَتَّى تَرْجُعْ إِلَى دِينِكُمْ. And this disgrace will not be removed until you return to your deen, yani al-jihad fi sabilillah, until again you start striving in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this striving in the path of Allah ta'ala achieves the objective of both of these illnesses. The love of dunya will be removed from the heart, and the fear of death will also be removed from the heart. And for this reason, all of these programs that are taking place in the masjid, it is a starting point and a stepping stone for us towards coming back to striving in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that we can make a change. And Allah ta'ala informed us in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will never change the condition of a people until they do not change themselves. The change is with us, my dear brothers. The change is not with the government. The change is not with the political parties. Hulle is almal in dieselfde team. Hulle is almal in dieselfde team. The change is not in the changing of international politics. The change is with you and me. You and I need to make the change of coming back to deen. In fact, one of the commentators of that hadith, he mentions a ajib thing. He says that the hadith ends by saying that you must come back to your deen. As if to say that when we fall into that condition, it will almost be like a condition where we've rejected the deen. It will be as if we've rejected the deen. كَأَنَّهُ نَوْءٌ مِنَ الْإِرْتِدَادِ. As if it is a form of irtidad. To discard the commandments of Allah Ta'ala, to discard the striving in the path of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And that we need to come back to that, so that the disease has been diagnosed. حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَاهِيَةُ الْمَوْتِ. The love of the dunya and the fear of death, the remedy has also been given. Because of those two things, we will leave taraktumul jihad, we will leave striving in the path of Allah Ta'ala. And the remedy is to come back to striving in the path of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Come back to striving for the cause of deen. Come back to striving for the upliftment of the Muslim ummah. And for this reason, brothers, all of our programs that are taking place in the masjid are taking place. We are humbly appealing to the brothers. Let us all make an intention to make a change. It is not going to be easy, but we need to make a start before we end up in the future becoming the next Gaza in Cape Town. May Allah Ta'ala grant us all tawfiq. And just a few important announcements. That the 𝗨𝗫𝗵𝗺 will be having a cake sale tomorrow, Saturday the 2nd of November, starting at 8 a.m. It will be opposite Dickery Dock. Everybody knows Boeta Mouroud's house, number 2, Bonteheuwel Avenue. And the funds will be going in assistance of the Bonteheuwel community. People doing sterling work in our community. Sterling work. May Allah Ta'ala grant all of us to be givers. Do you know how much money we would raise if each one of us just takes it upon himself to give 1 rand, all of us, every Friday. And give 10 rand once a month. You'll see how much we can do for the upliftment of our community. We should have the mentality of givers and not takers. I know we don't have a lot. I know that. But we will see that when we give under those circumstances where we can't really afford, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open the doors of rizq for us. May Allah grant us all tawfiq. And then also requesting to ask for their son Muhammad 𝗫𝗫𝗺. It is his 12th birthday tomorrow. May Allah grant him a lot of goodness. May Allah grant him up to grow a very good Muslim. And I hope that Muhammad 𝗫𝗫𝗺's father, if his father is still alive, will nurture him by bringing him to the masjid every day. If we all want good children. But are we taking them to the environments where they can become good people, where they can become good children? Du'as must be balanced by efforts and actions. And may Allah give us that tawfiq. And then importantly also, this coming Sunday, inshallah, will be the 60th commemoration of the 60th year of existence of the Masjid. We'll be having a khatam of Quran here at the Masjid. Each and every person is invited, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning until after Dhuhr. Lunch will be served after Dhuhr, inshallah. So we're inviting each and every person to come and attend and be part of it. And then also, whoever is still able to make any donation, whether in cash or in kind, if I can be specific, as julle nie my nie, ek verstaan nou maak jy nog pies en samosas, you know, so whoever is able to donate anything, whether cash or in kind, you can speak to one of the brothers from the committee also. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. الحمد لله وكفى وسبحوا ما في الأرض وما في السماء وسبحوا ما بينهما وما تحت الثرى. هو الذي تعزز بالقدرة والبقاء وقهر العباد بالموت والفناء ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. والصلاة والسلام على المرسلين والأنبياء خصوصا على سيد الورى شمس الضحى نور الهدى بدر دجى محمد المجتبى. هو الذي جاء بكتاب كشمس في ضحاها وبسنة كالقمر إذا تلاها. من تمسك بهما عاش في النور النهار إذا جلاها. ومن أعرض عنهما ظلك في ظلمات الليل إذا يغشاها. صلوات الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اتبعهم بالهدى. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، يا أيها الناس أوصيكم ونفسي أولا بتقوى الله فقد فاز المتقون. ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. قال تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد في القرآن الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم: إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. صدق الله العظيم. وقال تبارك وتعالى: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما ورد عنه: يوشك الأمم أن تداعى عليكم كما تداعى الأكلة إلى قصعتها. فقال قائل: ومن قلة نحن يومئذ يا رسول الله؟ قال: بل أنتم يومئذ كثير ولكنكم غثاء كغثاء السيل. ولينزعن الله من صدور عدوكم مهابة منكم وليقذفن الله في قلوبكم الوهن. فقال قائل: يا رسول الله وما الوهن؟ قال: حب الدنيا وكراهية الموت. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف، وفي كل خير. احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز. وإن أصابك شيء فلا تقل لو أني فعلت لكان كذا وكذا، ولكن قل قدر الله وما شاء فعله، فإن لو تفتح عمل الشيطان. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
اللهم صل وسلم وزد وأنعم وبارك بجلالك وكمالك على سيد سيدنا ومولانا محمد
صلى الله عليه وسلم
وعلى أهل سيدنا محمد وصحبه وسلم رضي الله تبارك وتعالى عن كل الصحابة أجمعين.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. يا أيها الناس أوصيكم ونفسي أولا بتقوى الله فقد فاز المتقون ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. قال تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد الفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال تبارك وتعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إذا تبايعتم بالعينة وأخذتم أذناب البقر ورضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد سلط الله عليكم ظلا لا ينزعه حتى ترجعوا إلى دينكم يعني الجهاد في سبيل الله. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر وأصدقهم حياء عثمان وأقضاهم علي وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة والحسن والحسين سيد شباب الجنة والحمسة أسد الله أسد الرسول. اللهم اغفر للأباس وولدي مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبه. الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحب أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغض أبغضهم وخير أمة قرني ثم الذين لونهم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتداه. اللهم انصر إخوان المجاهدين في فلسطين. اللهم انصر من نصرك الغيبية. اللهم احفظ رجال من أمة محمد واحفظ نساء من أمة محمد واحفظ شباب من أمة محمد واحفظ خاصة أطفال من أمة محمد يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نجعلهم في كنفك يا أرحم الراحمين. عباد الله يرحمكم الله أعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله تعالى يذكركم ودعوه يستجيب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر. ولا تسمعون أقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة تنافى عن المنكر.
الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. استقيموا واعتدلوا صفوفكم تراصوا ولا تختلفوا. Straighten the صفوف من فضلكم. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تبارك ربنا وتعاليت فلك الحمد على ما قضيت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وألف بين قلوبهم وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم. اللهم عن الكفرة الذين يصدون عن سبيلك ويكذبون رسلك ويقاتلون أولياءك. اللهم خالف بين كلمتهم، اللهم زلزل أقدامهم، اللهم مزق جمعهم، اللهم شتت شملهم، اللهم دمر ديارهم، اللهم أنزل بهم بأسك الذي لا ترد عن القوم المجرمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المجاهدين المستضعفين في غزة وفي فلسطين وفي كل مكان يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم خذ بأعدائهم أخذ عزيز مقتدر وأهلك أعداءنا وأعداءهم كما أهلكت قوم عاد وثمود يا رب العالمين، وأنت على ذلك قادر يا رب العالمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد نبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله العظيم والتواب الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه ونسألك توبة ومغفرة إنه هو التواب الرحيم. My dear brothers, just some closing requests. Number one is, let us all continue to remain committed to the upliftment of Deen. Number two is, let us all continue to remain aware of what is happening in the Muslim lands throughout the world, with the persecution and genocide taking place against Muslims throughout the world. Number three, let us continue with our support for all of the programs in aid of these Muslim communities that are suffering. And number four, let us continue with our support by way of the boycotting of all Israeli products and all Zionist institutions. This is the least we can do, my dear respected elders and brothers. May Allah give us all tawfiq. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا واغفر لنا وارحمنا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذريتنا قرة واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ولآبائنا ولأمهاتنا ولأزواجنا ولأولادنا ولأساتذة مشايخنا ولزملائنا وأصدقائنا ولمن له حق علينا ولمن أوصانا واستوصانا بالدعاء يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لأهل القبور من المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات، ارفع لهم الدرجات وكفر عنهم السيئات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم بارك لنا في حياتنا، اللهم بارك لنا في أولادنا، اللهم بارك لنا في نسائنا، اللهم بارك لنا في رزقنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اشفي مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين جميعا وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين جميعا الذين شهدوا لك بالوحدانية ولنبيك برسالة وماتوا على ذلك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد نبي الأم وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.